Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer. Thanks to David Bianchi for this one. Amy plays a kicked spell while she controls Hallar. Can Nick save himself from taking damage by killing Hallar in response to its ability? Okay, so in order to answer this question, we're going to need to know a couple of facts about what happens when spells and abilities resolve. So first of all, we're going to perform all the instructions in the order that they're written down. So let's take a look at what that might look like. First, we're instructed to put a +1/+1 counter on Hallar. Unfortunately, this is not possible to do because Hallar is no longer on the battlefield. That means that because this instruction is impossible to perform, it's just skipped over. Alright, let's see what the next instruction that we have is. And the next one would be for Hallar to deal some damage to each opponent. Now, it might seem like this one would also be impossible to perform, just like the previous case, for the same sort of reasoning. However, it turns out that we actually have this rule here, which indicates that once this triggered ability is on the stack, it exists independently of its source. And even though Hallar is no longer on the battlefield, this rule specifically allows it to deal damage as called for by the instructions in the ability. So that part actually would work completely fine. So now we have to figure out exactly how much damage the Hallar is going to deal. And again, it looks like we might be in a little bit of a pickle here, because Hallar is no longer on the battlefield. So that might mean that we don't expect it to have any counters at all on it. However, it turns out that the CR has our back again this time. So if we take a look at this rule here, we can see that if the game needs information about a game object during the resolution of a spell or ability, then the game uses the information about that object as it exists in the zone that it's supposed to be in. However, the Hallar is not in that zone, which, as the game rule says, means that we can take a look at its last known information. In other words, we can take a look at how many counters it had on it the last time it actually was on the battlefield, or as applicable in whatever zone that it was supposed to be in. Because of this, the game actually does look at how many counters the Hallar had on it when it left the battlefield, and that's the number that corresponds to how much damage we're going to get to deal. Fortunately for Nick, it seems that he actually did manage to save himself some damage. The +1/+1 counter that normally gets put onto Hallar during the resolution of that triggered ability would ordinarily contribute to the amount of damage that it deals. But because that +1/+1 counter never actually got put onto Hallar, then he at least gets to save himself that 1 damage. I'll close out by noting that Hallar is also one of these cool cards that gets a little bit better in Two-Headed Giant. As you can see, Hallar says that it deals damage to each opponent. And what that means is that each opponent in your Two-Headed Giant game is going to suffer that damage. In Two-Headed Giant, you have 2 opponents, and that means that both of them are going to be taking a hit. So you basically would get to deal twice as much damage with Hallar as you normally were accustomed to doing. Pretty cool trick. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. But until then, I hope you have a great day.